Hey guys, this is your wrestling show on your wrestling channel. Haven't done this for a couple of weeks, was recovering from a minor surgery, but it doesn't mean I was inactive. I was putting out content and I'm massively disappointed by the views for that content. Obviously, there was an update video that was put out from the girl Hope that we used, and then I put out some shorts called Wrestling Warfare, which was a series where I concocted up fantasy matchups, wrote up a script for those matches on AI, used footage or stills or whatever, and I booked the finish of all of those matches. So you had Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Hulk Hogan. Who wins? Well, you can find out who wins by watching the short, because I created a fantasy matchup where we looked at the accolades in a short period of time. We covered the accolades of both men. Then I looked at how the match would play out, and I gave my winner at the end and actually went through an actual finish. I booked a finish for all of these matches. I booked a finish for Hogan versus Austin. I booked a finish for Brett versus Angle. I booked a finish for Shawn Michaels versus AJ Styles. I booked an unbelievable finish for Ultimate Warrior versus Bill Goldberg in episode 7. But nobody's been watching this content. Now, originally, there were over 1,000 views for the first one for Hogan versus Austin, and then it kind of died off. There was like still 900 or so for Brett versus Angle, and then it died off. So I think it's something to do with the algorithm, because obviously this was being put out to an algorithm where it was being watched initially, and then the last 5 videos have just died and fell off a cliff. So before I make more, next one I'm going to do is CM Punk versus Macho Man Randy Savage. I am going to ask you guys to go over and check those out before I produce any more videos and waste my time. They were there just to kind of give people something to watch and to give me something to do, because I obviously didn't want this channel to be dormant again, which is why I put out the message video and why I put out these shorts, which I thought were really good, really creative, were really going to be something that drove people towards the channel, but it didn't work. So I just don't understand YouTube, don't understand social media, don't understand algorithms. I'm willing to talk to literally anybody that does, because when you look at people out there who have an audience and really don't deserve an audience, it really is quite frustrating. I'm not going to come on here today and talk about Saturday night's main event. I'm not even going to be long-winded about what I'm going to talk about today, but I will tell you, I will talk about Saturday night's main event on either the Lock Betting podcast or the Dirty Sheets podcast. In fact, I'm going to put it on both feeds unless there's no betting angle at all, because I'm waiting for the odds to come out. If there are odds for it, if there are betting odds, then I'll put it on both the Lock Betting podcast and the Dirty Sheets podcast for free. If there are no betting odds and it's just going to be a preview, then it'll just be on the Lock Betting podcast, because it'll have nothing to do with betting and therefore essentially doesn't belong on the Lock Betting podcast, which, by the way, is where you can find mine and Cav's NFL show every single week, and we are killing it. I'm on a 9-3 run, so if you want to get our plays, head over to patreon.com/NFL Pick 6, where you will be able to get our plays every week. 3 from me, 3 from Cav, but we always give more, always give bonus plays, especially off the back of a bad start to the season. But now I am absolutely rolling, and Cav had a winning day yesterday as well. Really good on Thursday Night Football. So yeah, just go and check it out. If you actually want to make money on the NFL, go there. If you want to get all the sports I do, head over to lockbetting.com. That's my service that's delivered 149 months in a row of transparent and track profit. So moving on to what I want to talk about. So it's a weird subject, but behind me here is a couch and a TV. And this is a couch where me and my son would sit for all of the PLEs every time they're on, whether it be late, whether it be those afternoon ones. The ones from Saudi were probably the best time-wise. We would watch them all, because we would always be looking ahead to some pay-per-view we were going to, because we always go to SummerSlam, Rumble, WrestleMania. we always stay in tune with it, even if it got a little bit less exciting during certain periods. But during 2021 to 2024, I would even say up until the start of this year, because that's the couch that we sat on and we watched the Netflix premiere together, we were pretty much dialed in to the product completely. Fast forward to the now, and we are on a streak, an unfortunate streak which has meant that my son Austin hasn't sat on that couch to watch that TV for the last two pay-per-views. The only one that he was here for since we went to SummerSlam together was Clash in Paris. He did not come over to watch WrestlePalooza. He had a football game in the morning. He didn't come around to watch it with me at all, because I watched it somewhere else with my friend and he watched it by himself. And he did not come here to watch Crown Jewel, which was more concerning because at the time it was on, he had plans with his friends. He's at that age, and obviously that's a normal thing to happen.
But you liked me. I thought this was a dream come true for us.
It's your dream. You can't force a dream onto someone else, Dad.
Yes, I can. I can force a dream on you.
Why are you yelling?
Because it's a good dream.
So that's probably a normal occurrence. Like, teenagers will usually do less things with their parents, with their dads as they get older. They'll be more disinterested. But I didn't think that would happen with us with wrestling, seeing as it's so uniquely tied to our vacations, which we're always looking forward to. And it's kind of a real shame, because as he was growing up, the things that I would take him to would be the wrestling and would be Manchester United. And Manchester United, as people know that follow football, are going through a bad period. They have been going through a bad period since Sir Alex Ferguson left. But when we started to go to the games together, there was seemingly a little bit of a resurgence. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got us to second in the league. And then Manchester United signed Cristiano Ronaldo. And that was supposed to be our big season. We pinned our hopes on that. We pinned our hopes on Man United finally winning their first Premier League since Sir Alex Ferguson left. But we all know the first Ronaldo season, pretty much the only Ronaldo season, because he didn't really hang around too long for the second one, talking about his return, did not bear fruit. It was a huge disappointment. Man United finished sixth in the table. Often we were going to games where we did not get a positive result. We were originally off to a good start to the season, and just being able to autograph the players for the first time, for him to meet Ronaldo, to meet Bruno Fernandes, was a huge thing. But then, you know, you're going for the results. You want to see a good game. You want to see your team win. You're driving 4 hours up the motorway, and watching Manchester United was becoming a chore. And slowly, progressively, Austin would not want to take those trips to Manchester, and progressively, he did not want to sit on that couch to watch the team. And the concern is now that we are in the same place. Then who's responsible for this? And you see people online, and they say, when you make a comment on something, and people always turn around and say this thing: if you don't like it, don't watch it. If you don't like it, don't watch it. It's not as easy as that for certain people, because if you are somebody that watches sports, if you are somebody that maybe even supports a sports team that are not successful and rarely are, such as a team like the New York Jets, for example, if you live in New York and you're a Jets fan, and even the Giants aren't covering themselves in glory these days, it's very difficult to move away from your sports team. Nobody will ever say that about a sports team. Nobody will ever say, support a different team or don't watch your team. Anybody that knows sports knows that that is not a thing. But how is loyalty to the WWE or WWF back in the day any different? If you've grown up with the WWF, if you've grown up with WWE, if you've gone through the Monday Night Wars, you have a loyalty to it. Cav specifically would tell me stories about how he would hate WCW. I didn't have that hatred for WCW because WCW in the UK wasn't promoted as this major threat that would take over from the WWE. I think you needed to be closer to it to really gauge and understand what the Monday Night Wars were, and that kind of comes more from retrospective information by watching these documentaries and whatnot, and really understanding what the wars were. Obviously, we knew that they were taking people away from each other, but I wasn't around a friendship group of necessarily of people that were choosing between WWE and WCW during the Monday Night Wars. But Cav was, and Cav said, I hated WCW, I hated Eric Bischoff, etc. So it is a team. WWE is a team. It is something that requires loyalty. It is something that obviously has also a nostalgic attachment to it as well, because it's a part of your childhood that stays with you. And we're always talking about things in our childhood that doesn't stay with us. Show after show after show after show, you know, they've gone. So many shows that don't exist anymore and probably couldn't exist in the modern day. Shops are closing down. People are dead. You know, people who you loved growing up, someone for me like Hulk Hogan, Michael Jackson, they're dead. They're not going to do anything anymore. They're not going to have any more autograph signings. They're not going to produce any more music. They're not going to have any more wrestling matches. So it is a part of nostalgia. It is tied to nostalgia. It is tied to loyalty. It is similar to supporting a sports team. So I want WWE to be good. And when people turn around and say, don't watch it, it is not as simple as just turning around and saying, okay, I'll just switch off. Now, you can reduce the amount you watch, and you can obviously reduce the amount of income you pour into it. For me, that would be obviously not biting on going to Paris, which came after SummerSlam. I've changed my mind about going to John Cena's last match. I've changed my mind about going to John Cena's last appearance at Madison Square Garden. I've even changed my mind even about going to the Saudi Rumble. I feel that I just feel like if I'm going to WrestleMania, I don't need to go to Saudi for the Rumble. I've experienced Saudi, I've experienced Royal Rumbles, and I am in a little bit of a period where I'm saving my money for certain big things that I need to do. So I don't need to get into the ins and outs of what I'm saving my money for, but I'm notoriously not a good saver. I'm notoriously a big spender. And my holidays, if I was to list them off over the past 3-4 years, they'll tell you that the fact that I only spend, the fact that I do spend on average about 3 months out of this country across 6 to 8 holidays probably tells you that is where a large part of my expenditure goes, and that in turn makes me a bad saver. So I'm choosing not to give WWE my money, and it is partly down to ticket prices, but it's also partly down to the product. My son doesn't pay the ticket prices. My son does choose to, or not choose to consume the product. He makes the choice as to whether he's going to watch Raw or whether he's going to digest it via short form format on YouTube, where he's just going to catch up with the clips. My son has navigated towards catching up with the clips. This was a sliding scale of events where he would first of all not come there and sit on this couch on Tuesdays to watch Raw. He would then stop coming here after football practice on Saturdays, where our routine would be he would either stay here tonight if it was my weekend, we'd get up and watch SmackDown and then go to football practice, or I'd pick him up from football practice and we'd go and watch SmackDown. That's not happening. He is watching SmackDown on his own, and he's doing it in a way where he can get it done in 10 minutes because he's a teenager and he thinks he's busy with real shit, and he's not. He's just busy with his teenage shit, but ultimately it's the same outcome. He thinks he's busy, and he thinks he's too busy to waste his time on the current version of WWE. So WWE are responsible for that. WWE needs to understand you are losing that viewer. You've lost that kid. And if you're losing the kids who has a dad who talks about wrestling on podcasts, who talks about wrestling on YouTube, who has a massive WWE figure collection, signed figures, who has allowed his son to have the opportunities to meet wrestlers, to go to WrestleManias and SummerSlams. He has holidays tied to it. To my right, I'm sitting next to an old school WrestleFest machine. This is a hardcore fan by definition. This is someone who's been brought up as a hardcore fan. Now, it doesn't help that CM Punk swore at him in a hotel. that was quite a pivotal moment for us, because for someone who is very much into the CM Punk return, has always been into CM Punk since he was 2 years old, and was very much looking forward to him, for him coming back, for him to completely switch and say, he's a prick, I hope he loses all of his matches. That was a pivotal point. And I was speaking about this on the last show, where I said it's difficult to watch the company right now when you don't have anyone to root for. Like, who do you like? If you don't like people, it becomes an even more difficult show to watch, which brings me back round to my team scenario, where you want to support your team, which is WWE, and within that team there's these individuals, and you want to pull for your favorite individual. I find it difficult to pull for a favorite individual right now, especially when the guy I probably like the best is barely on TV. And it's the same for my son, who obviously is a lot more invested when Roman makes one of his comebacks, but those comebacks are done to death. They're not hitting the same way that they did with Roman Reigns coming back and then stepping off TV for months at a time, and then coming back, and then the constant injury angles, and trying to obviously continuously recreate ways to get him on TV and to come back on. It's been played out. It's done. We knew when he was champion that he was going to be off TV, but we knew he was coming back because the injury angle wasn't required at the time, because he was a heel. And heel champions will notoriously be smarter, because they'll turn around and say, I will defend this belt at a bare minimum. As a heel, I will defend this belt only when I'm 100% obligated to defend this belt. When the shit hits the fan, I will defend the belt. That's a heel. And it was fine to take him off TV. It's been far more difficult as a babyface, and therefore using the same excuses and having to constantly recreate the same scenarios mean it's been far more stale as a babyface. Stale to the point where this couch and this TV in recent months, when it comes to recent PLEs, has been solely occupied by me. It's a sad turn of events, and it makes you realize that some people have more at stake on it than, oh, if you don't like it, don't just watch it. For some people, it is your team, and for some people, it's central to your relationship with certain people. Maybe it's central to your relationship with a girlfriend, probably not, because you're a wrestling fan. Maybe it's central to your relationship with a sibling, and in this situation, it's central to a relationship with a father and son. We lost Man United because Man United had played like shit, and as a teenager, it's been difficult to get him round to watch games with me. But I didn't think we'd be in a situation where it'd be difficult to watch PLEs. Raw, SmackDown, the writing was on the wall, but PLEs is pretty bad. And I think it's something that speaks volumes about the WWE. In a roundabout way, that is my point. My point is simply, if a father and son who throughout my son growing up have consumed wrestling together, not just on the couch, but have actually been to PLEs, we've been to SummerSlam, we've been to Royal Rumbles, we've been to multiple WrestleManias, we've been to UK shows, we've met wrestlers, he's collected autographs, he has wrestling stuff up on his wall. We are surrounded by things, not as much as we used to be, but I have a display cabinet here of all signed figures, with my WrestleFest machine here as well. So if you grow up in that way, if you are real fans with real loyalty, and it does reach a point where someone turns around and says, I'm skipping that PLE, Dad, I've got better things to do, should that be a huge concern to a company who are already finding it really difficult to pull in those fans? But now you're losing fans who are such fans that they were actually consuming your product to the extent where they were coming to your shows, flying across from one country to another, consuming your shows in person with their dad, and now they're turning around and saying, I don't have any interest in watching that entire PLE live. I will catch up with it later, which probably means fast forwarding through the shit I don't want to see. And I think that, in its roundabout way, speaks volumes about where we're at with the WWE. So I know you guys wanted me to do something where I talked about individual people on the show, your Braun Breakers, your Rhea Ripley's, your Roman Reigns situation, which I've probably pretty much done. But yeah, all of that, I will do that on a later show. In the meantime, be sure to check out the data sheets for the data sheets podcast for the for the Saturday night's main event preview. Be sure to check out the dirtysheets.com, the Patreon, for all of your latest wrestling news, all the most accurate wrestling news. Go to lockbetting.com for your betting picks. And here on YouTube, check out the shorts. Check out the Fantasy Warfare series that I did. Check out my take on Hogan versus Austin, on Brett versus Angle, on Michaels versus AJ, on Ultimate Warrior versus Goldberg, which is my favorite one because I really overbooked the fuck out the finish on that one, and it was really good in my opinion. But give me your opinion, and you can't give me your opinion until you've watched the short. So be sure to check it out. Until next time, thanks for watching, thanks for listening.